Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and to all our online participants that are joining today, welcome to the 34th OPA Annual Conference. It's a joy to have each and every one of you tuned in today. We'd like to take this moment to acknowledge and pay tribute to our partners and sponsors of the 34th OPA Annual Conference.
What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art? Or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
Dreaming of a new car? Thinking of owning your own home? Need finance for your business? We're ready to help. Talk to us today. HNB Finance.
Ultimately enabling digital innovation in all industries. New ecosystem. The SAPO-based collaborative ecosystem provides more comprehensive customer-oriented commercial solutions. Welcome to the Intelligent World 2030. Intelligent, green, and resolutely people-oriented.
We at Kotmale ensure the fresh milk we obtain goes through a quality production process. Adhering to global quality standards, Kotmale fresh milk that you consume is healthy and nutritious. We are Kotmale.
Sri Lanka is blessed with amazing ingredients, gigantic crustaceans, fiery spices, and the world's best tea. We are one of Asia's 50 best restaurants, and watch us plate these culinary gems and more. I am Darshan Munidasa, and let's meet in Sri Lanka.
Of the professional association since its inception way back in the year 1975 with dedication and commitment. '72 saw the establishment of the first Republic Constitution in Sri Lanka, replacing the Westminster Parliament system, and the formation of the National State Assembly, which is the legislature. The new constitution also paved the way for the abolishment of the second chamber of the parliament, the Senate, and as a result, at the time of origin, the OPA was to play a national role as a replacement to the Senate. The initiation of the OPA was also mooted with several professional bodies striving for the establishment of one common apex institution which would cater to the country's growing need of professional opinion. And this process was carried forward under the aegis of the Commonwealth Foundation based in the UK in order to have a joint voice in areas of economics and policy. Since then, the fledgling organization has grown to be a pulsating institution with immense potential to serve the nation at large. Owing to its diverse nature, today the OPA is recognized as a unique organization, and based on the reliable information, there could not be a similar organization globally. Even the officials of the Commonwealth Foundation who visited Sri Lanka to attend the choker were based at the progress the OPA has achieved during the decades of serving the nation profusely. For more than 4 decades, the OPA has been working with the ultimate vision of being the independent and vibrant apex body of professional associations of varied disciplines guided by high professional and ethical standards, providing leadership to and development of professions with acceptance of community as a body contributing to national development. Today, the OPA has come a long way and grown into a powerful civil organization consisting of an impressive list of member organizations currently standing at 48 with a total membership of approximately 50,000 professionals in various fields whose outreach could be extensive in numbers. The member organizations include and are spread across a vast number of sectors ranging from medical to legal, engineering to marketing, management, and the various other professional institutions. The OPA is recognized as one of the major organizations involved in conducting various programs in terms of seminars, workshops, lectures, etc. on national issues and any other important subject areas for both members and the general public. In this regard, a major 2-day conference is organized annually for broader participation of members and their respective associations on a timely subject with the participation of eminent resource persons as keynote speakers. The final outcome of this annual conference is forwarded to the government and relevant authorities for incorporation when making policy decisions. During the past so many years, OPA has achieved a plethora of milestones whilst upholding its utmost dignity and professional standards, and these milestones include the establishment of a professional center for the benefit of professionals, enactment of the 17th Amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution, a brainchild of the OPA, introduction of a healthcare insurance scheme for members extending up to 85 years of age with the collaboration of National Insurance Trust Fund, deliberations to the government on current issues faced by professionals and the general public with recommendations to relevant authorities for implementation, receiving of national honours by eminent professionals such as Desamandya, Vidya Jyoti and Vidya Nidhi on the recommendations of the OPA, appointment of some of the members to the independent commissions on the recommendations of the OPA, and more importantly, the OPA has been able to pursue the government to incorporate some of the budget proposals forwarded from time to time, which has largely benefited many professions and the general public in Sri Lanka.
President of the OPA, I am extremely happy about the progress the OPA has made so far during the year. The OPA, the apex body of all professionals in Sri Lanka with 52 member associations embracing 32 diverse professions, commenced annual sessions in 1988 theme Sri Lanka in the year 2015, created a solid foundation for the incumbent officials to continue the process over the years. Since 1988, the OPA annual conference has held a position of prime importance as the flagship event of the OPA, where the nationally important matters were deliberated at each of these conferences, resulting in many valuable proposals being made to the policymakers. 34th Annual Conference of the OPA will be held on 13th and 14th of October on the theme Resurgence in the New Order at the Shangri-La Hotel as a hybrid virtual event. The OPA has had an eventful 2021 in spite of the fact that the pandemic has restricted all physical activities. Standing committees bounced back to face the difficulties caused by the pandemic by resorting to the technological solutions. As a result, almost all seminars and programs were conducted virtually. The ESCO and forum meetings too had to be conducted on a digital platform, which was a novel experience to everybody. It is appropriate to mention that the 33rd annual conference in 2020, which was held fully digitally for the first time in the history of OPA, paved the way to embrace new technology for all events of the OPA. OPA's contribution to the nationally important matters was extremely well this year. I wish all success to OPA for all its endeavors in the future. Thank you.
For the recreation of the members, the OPA also organizes a series of programs which include Sinhala Tamil New Year and Christmas celebrations, mobile dental clinics, benevolent activities to mark the Vesak and the Poson celebrations, six-a-side softball cricket tournament, and many more. In the meantime, the OPA takes some extra effort in disseminating timely information to its membership, and 2 journals and 3 newsletters are issued free of charge annually in this regard, which contains many news articles and important events of member associations. The Organization of Professional Associations, which inaugurated with just 11 associations, have seen a steadfast growth and presently boast members from 48 associations across 32 disciplines. And the OPA will remain to be the independent and vibrant apex body of professional organizations in Sri Lanka, which would also stand for the best interest of all various professionals in Sri Lanka.
Ladies and gentlemen, and to all our participants joining us online. It's a pleasure to welcome each of you to the inauguration ceremony of the Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka's 34th Annual Conference. To begin this evening's proceedings, I would like to invite our dignitaries for the lighting of the traditional oil lamp symbolizing light and blessings to this ceremony. I would like to call upon the President of the OPA, Engineer Shantha Senarath, the OPA President-elect and Chairman of the 34th OPA Annual Conference, Mr. Dulitha Pereira, General Secretary of the OPA, Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, Treasurer of the OPA, Mr. Bandula Gamaarachi, the Convener of the 34th Annual Conference, Mr. Amila Sugathapala, representing the Executive Council and the Vice Presidents of the OPA, Senior Vice President Dr. Naresha Samarasekara, Representing the forum of the OPA, Mr. Raja Korale, and the OPA Center Director, Mr. D.N. Senaviratna. Thank you very much, dignitaries. You may make your way back to your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would like us all to rise for the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. The story we unveil reflects our professionals engaged in 32 diverse professions representing 52 professionals, associations, and how we contribute through the collectivism of our member associations to help unlock our potential to the betterment of our country and the society we live in. The star that we see on this logo betokens the professionals as frontline members for the country's development agenda, whilst the earth in the middle of the star resembles the global outreach of our professionals. The 32 colored boxes depict every professional is at par with each other, despite the diversity in respective practices. By highlighting Sri Lanka within the globe, we mean the global thinking and acting locally, whilst the hands conceptualizes the resurgence through the unified platform offered by OPA to further strengthen the ideology of global thinking and acting locally. The two hands represent the togetherness of the OPA to influence, to lobby for the betterment and development of Sri Lanka. Finally, the books and cogwheels at the root of the hands is to symbolize the blend of knowledge and practical application of knowledge for the resurgence in the new order. This is the logo for the 34th annual conference of the OPA. The Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka has a rich history. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the president of the OPA, Engineer Shanta Senrat, for the welcome address.
Honorable Lord Michael Hastings, the keynote speaker, other invited distinguished guests, immediate past president, president-elect, and who is also the conference chair, general secretary, treasurer, past presidents, ESCO and forum members, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to all of you. There's a saying that amateurs work until they get it right. Professionals work until they can't get it wrong. The 2021 annual conference of the Organization of the Professional Associations under the theme Resurgence in the New Order is the 34th such endeavor of the Apex Institution of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka. At the very outset, I would like to very warmly welcome the keynote speaker, Honorable Lord Michael Hastings, Member of Parliament, House of Lords, Westminster, London. Also, I welcome the conference chairman, President-elect Mr. Dulitha Perera, Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, the General Secretary, Mr. Bandula Gamarachi, the Treasurer, past presidents, office bearers, forum and ESCO members, and all our valuable sponsors and all other ladies and gentlemen. Organization of Professional Associations, the apex body of all professionals in Sri Lanka with 52 member associations representing 32 diverse professions, commenced its signature event, annual sessions. It was called the annual sessions at that time. In 1988, theme Sri Lanka in the year 2015, which created a solid foundation for the incumbent officials to continue the process over the years. Since 1988, the OPA annual conference has held a position of prime importance as the flagship event of the OPA, where the nationally important matters were deliberated at each of these conferences, resulting many valuable proposals being made to the policymakers. In the year 2020, last year, the theme of the conference was Bounce Back, Disasters are Opportunities, and was held on 27th and 28th June 2020, virtually as the situation in the country was not conducive to conduct a physical conference due to the COVID-19 pandemic that had affected the entire world. Despite all the odds, the conference turned out to be a huge success with over 600 online participants from different countries and speakers joining from Sri Lanka, India, Malaysia, Pakistan, and United Kingdom. The outcome of the deliberations was presented as OPA recommendations to His Excellency the President and to Honorable Prime Minister, who participated as the chief guest. The year 2021 was unprecedented. COVID-19 has inflicted an unexpected and unprecedented degree of damage and uncertainty on humanity. During such circumstances, the progress of any organization depends on its ability to incorporate new energies and new ideas to adapt to the changing needs and demands. OPA faced this challenge with vigor, with the combined strength of experience, youthful energy, enthusiasm, and novelty that is extraordinary. As the apex professional organization in the country, OPA has a responsibility to all the professionals and the general public to contribute in its maximum capacity in this fight against COVID-19. OPA has been relentlessly working with the government authorities towards fulfilling this responsibility by way of making proposals to mitigate the issues. Annual conference this year is the 34th in the series and will be held today and tomorrow at Shangri-La Hotel, Colombo on the theme Resurgence in the New Order, which is very well connected with the theme of the last year's conference. The significance of this year's annual conference has steepened due to the fact that the third National Apex Awards ceremony for the most outstanding professionals in 10 diverse professions too was also scheduled to be conducted along with the annual conference. Due to the recent curfew and ongoing travel restrictions, the Apex Award ceremony was compelled to be postponed as it should be totally a physical event. The OPA has had an eventful 2021 in spite of the fact that the pandemic had restricted all physical activities. The standing committees bounced back to face the difficulties caused by the pandemic by resorting to new technological solutions. As a result, almost all seminars and programs were conducted virtually. The ESCO and forum meetings too had to be conducted using Zoom technology, which was a novel experience to everybody. It is appropriate to mention that the 33rd annual conference in 2020, which was held fully digitally for the first time in the history of OPA, paved the way to embrace new technology for all events at the OPA. I wish to conclude to express my sincere hope that the conference would be a resounding success and that the outcome would greatly benefit all. Also, I wish to confirm that the recommendations would be forwarded to the policy-making bodies for their consideration. I quote, "Professionalism is not about what work you do. It is about how well you do the work." Amit Kalantri. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Shanta Senarath, President of the OPA. Thank you for your valuable words. President Senarath has been with the OPA for over 12 years, and I asked him a question before the event began. I asked him, why did you join this organization? And he said something beautiful. He said, this organization helps me and gives me an opportunity to serve the country. And it shows the magnitude and impact that this organization has not only on the nation at large, but also on professionals, giving them an opportunity to serve this nation. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is the President-elect of the OPA and Chairman of the 34th OPA Annual Conference, Mr. Dulitha Pereira. Mr. Pereira will share with us how they came about the logo and the very apt theme for the conference, as well as how the OPA plans to take the outcomes of their deliberations to the next level. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Mr. Dulitha Pereira to the podium.
President Shanta Senarath, our keynote speaker, Lord Michael Hastings, our General Secretary, Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, Treasurer, Mr. Bandula Gamarachi, my convener, Mr. Amila Sugatapala, members of the office bearers of OPA, members of the Executive Council, members of the Forum, sponsors, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure and a privilege to be standing before you and speaking to you on this conference, which is one of our flagship events of OPA. Way back in early 2021, we embarked on this project of the annual conference with a diversified committee comprising of different professionals coming together to put up an event of this sort. We deliberated on many subjects, on what we have been going through in the past, at a time when the country was hit with the Easter attacks and the country was slowly gaining momentum, at which point in time the pandemic came and again we were hit. So the committee was deliberating on which are those fronts on which we should be really looking at this year. And we felt it is very challenging for not only Sri Lanka, but for everybody around the world to come out of the crisis situation that each and everyone has been going through. So, what we felt was that it is only through innovative thinking, collaboration, and collective vision we are able to accomplish resurgence in the new order. So the theme came about in that manner. I think we have also given some explanation as to how the theme came about and what this logo is representing. So I'm not going to dwell much on that. But the thinking behind how we lined up our speakers and how we are planning on taking this message across to the policymakers is what I would like to speak on. At a challenging time of a global pandemic, causing even more stress on emerging economies as ours, we realize the importance of an apex body like OPA to concentrate and build its capacity and ability to help Sri Lanka navigate itself seamlessly by realizing the potential in a transformative phase. Our committee deliberated to ensure due recognition to efforts and focus of our member associations, which is about 52, represented by 32 professions, to be seen with a bird's eye view, and those key subject matters to be brought to the forefront to deliberate at this year's conference. And this is a symposium of representation of recognized professional fraternity in our country. The story that we are unveiling through our conference theme and the logo is depicting very clearly our collectivism of our member associations, helping unlock our potential to betterment of our country and the society that we are living in. So in looking at this, we felt it is none other than Lord Michael Hastings who would probably be able to shed some light on global trends, on imperatives for sustainable economic development as a subject to speak on with his wide array of experience. Lord Michael Hastings, a Member of Parliament, House of Lords, Westminster, London, I would like to thank him for honoring our invitation amidst a busy schedule of work and to have accepted to be our keynote speaker. Following that, tomorrow we would be having our technical sessions. And the lineup of our technical sessions are going to be by way of an opening plenary, which is on entrepreneurship, where two eminent speakers, both Ashraf Omar, CEO of Brandix Apparels, and Dr. Udaya Indraratna, who is currently working overseas, will be exchanging their knowledge on how successful the entrepreneurship journey had been for them and what are those concepts, what are those challenges that they came across, and how they would be overcoming the challenges the pandemic has brought in its wake. They will be discussing on what strategies that could be implemented in order to help our entrepreneurs to revive and make a contribution to the society and our country. Following that, we would have our first concurrent session, which is on future of education. This is the first breakout session where resurgence in the country's education system would address entire range of educational activities that must be employed to support resurgence of the educational system in Sri Lanka. The conversation will then take the form linking those initiatives with STEM education and technological education system to help adapt to the new normal for what comes next and beyond. For this, we have a fairly good lineup of speakers. Professor Ariyadure, former Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Sri Lanka. Dr. Dujipa Samarasekara, Director for Center for Development of Teaching and Learning of the NUS, National University of Singapore. And Professor Trishanta Nanayakara, a professor in robotics, Dyson School of Design Engineering, Imperial College in the UK. Second, or rather the next concurrent session, the breakout, would be on imperatives for sustainable economic development, where we would talk about how we are going to overcome the current economic situation that we are going through, and sustainable economic development initiatives that need to be taken into consideration in order for our country to be revived for a better future and an equitable society. For this, we would have Mr. Richard Trefall, Global Head of KPMG Impact, speaking from London, talking about environmental sustainability and the governance aspect of it, of the economic development. And to give a local touch, Professor Sirima Laberatna, Professor, Head of Department of Economics, University of Colombo, will be joining hands with him. Then the second set of concurrent sessions would start after lunch tomorrow. In the breakout room 1, we would have how we could leverage supply chain for Sri Lanka for its benefit. Leveraging supply chain for Sri Lanka on management of supply chain, where we hope to focus on how we could position ourselves as a central hub in the global supply chain, which will result in attracting more foreign direct investments to our country that will result in reviving our economy for a more sustainable future. For this, we have invited Mr. Rohan Abevikrama, Managing Director of Satsindhu Limited, to be accompanied by Ms. Tanya Polonovita, Group Managing Director of IAS Holdings, who are experts in this area to speak to us on this subject. Breakout room 2, we will be deliberating on legal and regulatory reforms for business and economic development. As we all know, because of the war that we have been going through, our laws and regulations are fairly archaic. Here we would be really looking at what are those key thrust areas in which legal and regulatory reforms for business and economic development would be required, and we would dwell upon those subject matters related to law reforms. The panel will draw attention towards stressing on what measures can be taken to strengthen our legal and regulatory framework, taking into consideration the subject areas such as investments, agriculture, and the healthcare areas. For this, we have three eminent speakers that we have selected. Dr. Harsha Cabral, President's Counsel, Mrs. Padmini Valgama, an attorney at law, and we were to bring in Mr. Kalinga Indathissa, President's Counsel, to speak on the subject matter on healthcare. Unfortunately, due to unavoidable circumstances, he is unable to make it. Therefore, we will have, as a replacement, DIG Ajit Rohana speaking on that subject matter tomorrow in that concurrent session. With that, we will come to our closing plenary, which is a pet topic for our country, that is on tourism. The tourism industry, which has been worst hit because of the pandemic, need to revive, need to come back, and come back with an impact. With the pandemic, dwindling income generated through tourism sector necessitates strategic direction and fundamental changes in the product offering we have. This session would also focus on ever-increasing need for human capital and talent development in the hospitality and tourism sector in our country. So to speak on the strategic direction and policy level changes that are required, we have invited Mrs. Kimali Fernando, Chairperson of the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, to come and speak to you. And with regard to the product, the changes in our product offering that we need to do, we have invited Mr. Dilip Rajakarya, Group Chief Executive Officer of Minor International, to speak to us. On the human capital development area on the hospitality and tourism sector, we have invited Mr. Iraj Abevardhana, who is very close to us at OPA, who is also a director at the Imperial Institute of Higher Education, to come and speak. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your lineup. And I must say, in bringing this set of people to come and speak to you on these subject matters was a tall task for us. And my committee that worked tirelessly, day in, day out, and the Center Management Committee, our Executive Council, forum members, staff, and everybody rallied around our committee and gave a lot of support, a lot of guidance, without which we wouldn't have been able to put up an event of this sort. I must also place on record my appreciation to the guidance and the support that was provided to me by my president, my general secretary, and our treasurer, who had been always bouncing off things with me and providing me the support. In doing all of this, we are doing a voluntary service. This voluntary service is not possible if you are not relieved of your work to some extent from whatever the profession that you are following or profession you are in. And I must place on record my appreciation to the partners of KPMG in Sri Lanka who gave me the fullest support, courage, and extended a lot of support for me to carry this through. And we have been able to put up an event for all of you to benefit with a lot of teamwork, dedication, and support. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to take much of your time. You have another full day of sessions. You have an exciting lineup for you to enjoy. And at the same time, there will be a massive intellectual dissemination, which I'm sure each one of you is going to enjoy. So please do participate actively, engage, and I hope you will enjoy all the proceedings of OPA's 34th Annual Conference. Thank you, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, OPA President-elect Mr. Dulitha Pereira, for your insightful address and for unveiling this very apt theme that is so relevant for today. And I'm sure tomorrow will be such an exciting event with a wonderful lineup of speakers. Pablo Picasso, one of the world's most renowned painters, he once said that action is the foundational key to all success. And we are certain that the actions of the OPA will be a complete success. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the keynote address by the very eminent keynote speaker of the inauguration ceremony, Lord Dr. Michael Hastings of Scarisbrick. He was awarded a CBE, Commander of the British Empire, which is one of the highest ranking awards bestowed to individuals for having a prominent role at national level. He is a Member of Parliament at the British House of Lords and the Chancellor of Regent's University in London. Lord Dr. Michael Hastings will be connecting with us virtually from London to deliver the keynote address.
Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing me to participate in your meeting. I have such fond and significant memories of my times in Sri Lanka, especially in recognition of the work that we, when I was at KPMG, did in support of the after effects from the tsunami and the building of villages. Can I pay special respects, President and President-elect of the Organization of Professional Organizations, and thank you for having me with you today. I wish I could be there in person, but sheer reality requires me to be in London. So here we are. I've noticed your fascinating new logo. It's bright, it's colorful, it's engaging. Resurgence in the New World Order. Resurgence in the New World Order. That's a tall demand, but it's the right way to begin to think about the kind of future we need to focus on. At the turn of the last century, not this one, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, then leading the USSR, made this now famous statement. There are decades where nothing happens. And then there are weeks where decades happen. Let me say it again. There are decades where nothing happens. And then there are weeks where decades happen. We've all been through that. 2020, 2021. These 2 years for all of us as individuals, wherever we are in the world, with very few exceptions, maybe the Arctic, maybe the Antarctic, we've all lived under a new order. At the beginning of last year, who would have anticipated the chaos, uncertainty, death, disease, and disorder, and the impact for you in Sri Lanka of the devastation of the tourism industry, the loss of foreign travel and the assets, wealth that foreigners bring, and the loss of jobs, but also the need to bring your economy, our economies, all our economies back into a stronger, more but also the need to bring your economy for all of us, our economies, all our economies in 2020 into a stronger, more significant position. It left us, for all of us, decades and uncertain. Happened in 2020. There is only one 2021 thing we can say, is that we didn't know it was coming in the way it did, and we don't know if it will come again. Criticisms leveled at the World Health Organization, criticisms leveled at the major economies of the world. Who was ready for this pandemic? I mean, after all, pandemics have come and gone every 50, 100 years in the course of history, hundreds of millions. Since the earliest recordings from bubonic plague have gone around the world to devastate communities and individuals. But we weren't ready. Our hospitals were not ready, and our people were surprised. This speaks a lot about professional accountability. It speaks a lot about professional preparedness. It speaks a lot about attitudes of mind, the kind of countries, communities, and companies we wish to build. Being ready for the unknown is a vital part of being prepared when it is known. Just a few weeks ago, the world turned its focus to remembering 20 years since 9/11. It affected people from every corner of the globe because of those who died in the Twin Towers in New York. It wasn't just Americans. Half the numbers who died as the towers fell after being struck were from every corner of the globe, from your region and from mine. We watched as presidents, present and former, stood and listened to the individual stories of those who died. And this came hot on the heels of the end of America's and the Allies, the United Kingdom, Canada, other countries' involvement in Afghanistan. A very, very painful few weeks. It spoke of attempts by the West then to reorder society, to reorder the world, to reorder countries, to seek to impose upon Afghanistan a model of Western thinking, Western democracy, Western ideas. It didn't work. And if 9/11 represented one very sad and desperately painful incursion into the lives of those 3,000 people, it was the clash of ideologies from different corners of the world at the center point of one of the leading points of the world. We are living in such uncomfortable times. Decades are happening in days. And as quick as we were on the focus on Afghanistan and 9/11, now our focus has shifted again. The world is turning its attention to COP26, to climate change. In just 2 weeks' time, leaders of the world will gather here in the United Kingdom, in Glasgow, and they will battle, as they have done before, over defining and refining the ideas and the obligations necessary to bring our climate back into order. And world events force us to take it seriously. I'm sure you've seen the intensity of fires last year in Australia, this year yet again across the Western United States. But the worst of all, barely reported in the Western world, the biggest fires ever in the tundra region of Russia. Bigger than any fires in the Amazon, any fires in Western America, and any fires in Turkey, Greece, Spain, or across Australia, bigger than all put together. leaching out methane and carbon gases from the drying out of the once frozen tundra. The world is not a happy place. So how do we build a new order? A new order that is resurgent, in other words, gives us confidence that we can step into this order and not face the chaos and unsettled nature of what we've seen before. Let me quote my great friend, Professor Muhammad Yunus. You all know Muhammad Yunus is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and this year also receiving the Olympic Award for his massive dedication to the power of sport in changing lives. Professor Yunus created the Grameen Bank. It became the model of microfinance everywhere around the world. And it's a wonderful thing to see that even the potency of a small Bangladeshi organization, which then became vast, should find its way to banking structures in the United States and Europe. It should become the model. Well, speaking to One Young World, the annual gathering of young global leaders, Professor Yunus said, you have a choice. You have a choice. You can live in a world already built, or you can build the world that you want to live in. That's the challenge you're addressing in these 2 days of your conference. You want to have a resurgence in the new world order, to bring professionalism back, quality back, commitment back, energy back to the sectors of industry and entrepreneurship and tourism that will remake the economy of Sri Lanka, that will make your country stand tall. We're all facing it. The need not to accept the way things have been, but to look towards the way things need to be. Now, today, when I awoke in London, I scoured the headlines. What did I discover? A picture of Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, calling for peace. Calling for peace in front of an intercontinental ballistic missile. A major parade taking place, as it did, in North Korea 2 days ago. North Korea stating clearly that it doesn't want war with the South, nor with America, nor with anyone else. But it must be armed for peace. That's what we've always said in NATO and the European allies. The protection of peace requires the weight of war, or at least the threat of it. How uncomfortable to find our own mantra thrown back at ourselves. But we know that countries which have absorbed weapons over decades have struggled to invest in the education of their people, have battled to support the businesses which will give people daily work and dignity, have not been able to provide the housing that will support those who are on the edge of destitution. A new world order can't require us to weapon up against each other for the sake of peace. It has to require us to give up on what we've held precious to our stability. A second headline today: China pledges solar farms and national parks to hit global goals. China is the world's biggest emitter of carbon and gases which damage the environment, the world's largest user of coal-fired power. A pledge made just 2 weeks ago that China would no longer commit to building international coal-fired stations. But then 2 days ago, to find a significant loss of power in one of China's regions, causing it to switch on its old coal-fired power stations. Here is the heart of the problem. It commits to saying that it will be neutral by 2060. That's pushing 40 years out. But at COP26, we're going to be told, as we've been told now for well over a decade, that we don't have 40 years, or 30 years, or 20 years. After all, the Sustainable Development Goals were due to be resolved by 2030. That is now 9 years away. The reality of 2020, 2021, the pandemic, its impact on poverty in the world, has pushed the 2030 deadline back. The numbers of extreme poor in the world, growing in Southeast Asia and in sub-Saharan Africa, have exceeded 1 billion again. The progress we'd made has been reversed. So we don't have the time the Chinese president wishes for, but at least we have the goodwill. We're grateful for it. We're all grateful for it. But our world has watched its weather take its drastic toll upon us. Rising sea levels, catastrophic floods, tremors, earthquakes, uncertainty. All of this, the consequence of our industrial actions. So for you, the question, how do you prepare a resurgence in a new order that requires you to be carbon neutral? In other words, to return carbon to the natural order, not to pretend you don't produce it. You have to produce it. But how do you return it to the natural order in such a way that your tree growth and your stable environment protect you against negative carbon impacts? No country can do this alone. At COP26, we will need all the countries of the world, all industrial manufacturing countries, including Sri Lanka, to step up to new commitments. We can't avoid it. The costs of weather damage and the changes in weather patterns are so noticeable and so immediate that we've stopped debating whether this is happening, and we're fretting over when it might possibly stop. We know severity is coming. But the other severity we know is coming is the challenge to the Western model of democracy and the certainty that we once felt we held in our ideas. They don't work the same anymore. This is the year 2021 where we all watched the insurgency in Washington. But it's not just the insurgency in Washington of thousands of people taking over the Capitol, demanding the remaining of one president and trying to hold back another. The biggest ever protests in Russia have been in the last 3 weeks, and protests across Hong Kong leading to China's deepening suppression. The uncertainties that people feel now in Taiwan, claiming that is going to be their place of democratic certainty, not at the moment with so much risk and overflight and fear. Democracy is now vulnerable. I found it interesting when I discovered not so long back that well over 100 years ago, a man who was a leading journalist in the United States prophesied, effectively writing in a journal called the Baltimore Evening Sun, that it would be the damaged soul of the American people, and let me quote it, this is July 26, 1920, as democracy is perfected, he said, the office of the president represents more and more closely the inner soul of the people. On some great and glorious day, the plain folks of this land will reach their heart's desire at last, and the White House will be occupied by a downright fool and a narcissistic moron. I take no delight in those regards. What Mencken meant when he spoke that 100 years ago was that if democracy is meant to be about anything, it should be the highest aspirations of all the people. But what it has become is the lowest aspirations of the simplest people. We cannot have competent government nor certain society based on simplicities rather than clarities. So we have big issues for a new world order. Climate change has replaced terrorism. More damage is done by climate impacts than terrorist atrocities. Another headline today, Ethiopia wishing to take out those remaining fighters in the Tigray region. It shouldn't be for poorer countries in the world to battle with one another. We need collaborative commitments to stabilize peace. But climate change cannot be negotiated with. It must be submitted to. Our new world order requires us to be ready for what 2022 will bring. We didn't know what 2020 will bring. We don't know what 2022 will bring. But what we do know is we cannot be the way we were 2 years ago. Unready, unshackled, uncertain, and risking too many lives. But also our democratic models across the world need big rethinking. Peoples are fed up with what they see as inaction, corruption, and insecurity. What I believe very strongly, and I want to leave you with two final thoughts, is that it is not the activity of either governments or industries or business that matters most. Not the activity, but it is the integrity of all of the players of our civil society working together that matters most. Clarity on the truth, clarity on purposes, clarity on commitment. These integrity measures, these realities of a stable, strong, resurgent society matter most clearly. Some have said we're now in the post-truth age. I don't accept that. Some have passed truth by. But for all of us who believe very strongly and very committedly that society is built on the quality of the people who build it, who take public office, who lead business and industry, integrity is the most critical quality of all. Not activity, but integrity. To know the truth, to tell the truth, to hold to the truth, and to serve the public interest. It was a very long time ago that Pericles, the great philosopher, wrote between 495 BC and 429 BC. But his words are helpful for us. He says this: our love of what is beautiful does not lead us to extravagance. Our love of the things of the mind does not make us soft. We make friends by doing good to others, not by receiving good from them. When we do kindnesses to others, we do not do them out of any calculation, profit, or of loss. We do them without afterthought, relying on our own free liberality. I declare, says Pericles. Remember, this is Pericles writing this in excess of 2,400 years ago. So let it be a warning to me and to you. I declare, says Pericles, that in my opinion, every single one of our citizens, in all the manifold aspects of life, is able to show themselves the rightful lord and owner of their own person, and to do this with exceptional grace and exceptional versatility. Let me put that in simple words. Our choices to bring resurgence in a new order have to be about our duty accepted as citizens together to enable and empower one another. That's what he meant by being the rightful lord and owner of our person, to enable and empower one another through exceptional grace to build a society of common positive commitment. To believe optimistically that nothing done well is futile, that nothing done for the cause of sound profit but deep purpose is futile, that nothing done in the interests of protecting the widest number is futile, to gift ourselves to the generosity of creating a new society based not on what it was like, but on what it must be. So I finish with a poem, first written in 1869, then repeated in 1919 during the pandemic of the Spanish flu, brought to life again in 2020 in the light of COVID-19. Well, as I said before, pandemics have been with us before, and they will be again. It is the quality of who we are that will matter the most, not the structures of activity we put in place. So here are the reflections from 1869 to 2021. And people stayed at home, and they read books, and they listened, and they rested, and they did exercises, and they made art, and they played, and they learned a new way of being, and they stopped, and they listened more deeply. Someone meditated, someone prayed, someone met their shadow, and people began to think differently, and people healed. And in the absence of those who lived dangerously and ignorantly, meaninglessly and heartlessly, the earth also began to heal. And when the danger had ended, people found themselves. They grieved for the dead, and they made new choices, and they dreamed new visions, and they created new ways of living, and they completely healed the earth, just as they were healed. That is your task and mine. I wish you a great conference. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lord Dr. Michael Hastings, for the keynote address and the powerful words that were spoken. Integrity, he mentioned, and I'd like to quote from C.S. Lewis, who once said, "Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching." The OPA's 34th annual conference is the flagship event of the OPA, held every year, with a focus on working together to contribute to the country's development agenda. I would like to recognize the sponsoring organizations of the 34th OPA Annual Conference, the official telecommunication partner SLT Mobitel, the gold sponsor Siam City Cement Lanka Limited, INSEE Cement, the bronze sponsors H&B Finance, Huawei Sri Lanka and Cargill Ceylon, the copper sponsor Sri Lanka Convention Bureau, and the hospitality partner Shangri-La Hotels and Resorts.
What makes a nation great? What makes a nation great? Is it the richness of its heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art, or is it the bonds that bind us? For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
of a new car? Thinking of owning your own home? Need finance for business? We're ready to help. Talk to us today. HNB Finance.
Ultimately enabling digital innovation in all industries. New ecosystem. The SAPO-based collaborative ecosystem provides more comprehensive customer-oriented commercial solutions. Welcome to the Intelligent World 2030. Intelligent, green, and resolutely people-oriented.
We at Kotmale ensure the fresh milk we obtain goes through a quality production process. Adhering to global quality standards, Kotmale fresh milk that you consume is healthy and nutritious. We are Kotmale.
Sri Lanka is blessed with amazing ingredients, gigantic crustaceans, fiery spices, and the world's best tea. We are one of Asia's 50 best restaurants, and watch us plate these culinary gems and more. I am Darshan Munidasa, and let's meet in Sri Lanka.
Once again, thank you to our sponsoring organizations for the 34th OPA Annual Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to present the OPA Journal. The OPA publishes 4 newsletters and 2 journals for a year. The OPA Journal is considered as the voice of the professionals. To present the first few copies of the OPA Journal to the key office bearers of the OPA, I would like to invite on stage the chairman of the publication committee, Engineer Upali Jayawardena. I would like to call the following dignitaries on stage to receive the official journal of the year to commemorate the 34th OPA Annual Conference. The President of the OPA, Engineer Shanta Senarath, the OPA President-elect and Chairman of the 34th OPA Annual Conference, Mr. Dulitha Pereira, General Secretary of the OPA, Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, and Treasurer of the OPA, Mr. Bandula Gamaarachi. Ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this evening's proceedings towards a close, I would like to now invite the OPA General Secretary, Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, for the vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. Honorable keynote speaker, President, President-elect, Treasurer, Office Bearers, past presidents, members of the Executive Council, and the members of the General Forum of the OPA, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored and pleased to welcome you to the 34th Annual Conference on behalf of the Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka. I treat it a privilege that I have been given the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks at this distinguished gathering at the conclusion of the inauguration of the 34th Annual Conference, which is the flagship event of the OPA. Resurgence in the new order is the most discussed subject since the outbreak of COVID-19. Harnessing resources for resurgence under this pandemic situation is as important to Sri Lanka as to the rest of the world. The conference themes are geared for this: resurgence of entrepreneurship, resurgence in the country's education system, leveraging supply chain, legal and regulatory reforms for business and economic development, and resurgence in tourism industry towards new normalcy. Firstly, I wish to thank the keynote speaker, Lord Michael Hastings of Scarisbrick House of Lords, Westminster, London, who participated by delivering the keynote address, which was very inspiring. These deliberations emanating from the experts and the eminent speakers and their guidance undoubtedly would hold the country in good stead in its quest to stay resurgent and unbowed by the devastating effect of the pandemic. It is my fervent hope that deliberations would be of value to the participants, as the experts and the eminent speakers are highly proficient and experienced in their respective disciplines. I also wish to express my heartfelt thanks to the eminent speakers who will be joining the technical sessions of the 34th Annual Conference of the OPA on the 14th of October 2021. I wish to thank the President-elect, Mr. President-elect Dulitha Pereira, Chairman, President Engineer Shantha Senrath, Treasurer Mr. Bandula Gamarachi, Office Bearers, past presidents, members of the Executive Council and the General Forum of the OPA, presidents of the member associations, convener of the 34th Annual Conference Committee, Mr. Amila Sugatpala, and also the members of the committee. Our sincere gratitude and thanks to the main sponsors and other sponsors, including Member Association of the OPA, for their generous contribution provided for this conference. I'll be failing in my duty if I do not appreciate the print and electronic media for their coverage given for the conference. I also wish to thank the hotel staff who were courteous and provided all the facilities required for this event. The event manager who provided technical support, the company of the event for their unstinted support and assistance provided to ensure a successful event. Last but not least, I wish to thank the Center Director of the OPA, Mr. D.N. Senaviratna, Coordinator for the OPA 34th Annual Conference, Ms. Jayatri Ratnayaka, and the staff of the OPA Secretariat for their untiring efforts and contributions in making this conference a reality. And finally, I invite you for the cocktails. Please have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you once again, General Secretary of the OPA, Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, for your vote of thanks. I would like to invite the Annual Conference Committee on stage to take an official photograph. Once again, I would like to invite the Annual Conference Committee on stage to take an official photograph before we conclude this evening's proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's proceedings. We look forward to seeing you all once again tomorrow for an exciting and impactful day with the technical sessions. Please note we'll be starting sharp at 9 a.m. for our plenary session taking place in this same venue. Once again, thank you to all our online participants, and to those physically here, please do enjoy the cocktails. Thank you.
Heritage, the beauty of its natural bounty, the state of its state-of-the-art. All is at the bonds that bind us. For decades, SLT Mobitel has been linking Sri Lankan lives and uniting the nation. Whatever the future may look like, we'll always be right here, connecting you to the things you care most about. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
Dreaming of a new car? Thinking of owning your own home? Need finance for your business? We're ready to help. Talk to us today. HNB Finance.
Ultimately enabling digital innovation in all industries. New ecosystem. The SAPO-based collaborative ecosystem provides more comprehensive customer-oriented commercial solutions. Welcome to the Intelligent World 2030. Intelligent, green, and resolutely people-oriented.
We at Kotmale ensure the fresh milk we obtain goes through a quality production process. Adhering to global quality standards, Kotmale fresh milk that you consume is healthy and nutritious. We are Kotmale.
Sri Lanka is blessed with amazing ingredients, gigantic crustaceans, fiery spices, and the world's best tea. We are one of Asia's 50 best restaurants, and watch us plate these culinary gems and more. I am Darshan Munidasa, and let's meet in Sri Lanka.